let's talk about contraception. Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is the beginning of my story of my sterilization. It has been a long journey for me to get to this place, and I just want to give firstly a little background about what has led me to this decision. So I have been on various versions of birth control over the last many years, since I was in college basically. In college is when I first went on the pill, and I was so forgetful that I would forget to take it like all the time, like almost every other day I think it was, and I was forgetting to take it, which can be very dangerous if you're not using a backup method, which luckily I was. So I decided it was kind of useless for me to be taking it since I would forget to take it. Like I said, probably every other day because I'm such a forgetful person. I wasn't taking it long enough to really have any side effects that I could remember, because I just decided to discontinue it basically. When I got older, I decided that I wanted to try another method again, other than relying on my partner, using condoms, etc. The next thing that I tried was the copper IUD. I did a little bit of research, and this was something that I was interested in because I didn't want to be putting hormones in my body, just because I'm kind of more of a natural kind of person like that. So I thought it would be easier on my body, it would be natural. I was wrong. I had a horrible reaction to it. They tell you that you may bleed on and off when your body is getting used to it for, a little while, a couple months. I bled for 6 months straight, and had very few times where I would have like a little bit of a break. I had basically the opposite of a period. I would bleed most of the month, and then for a couple days I would stop bleeding, in which I thought, oh, finally my body is getting used to this, and it's going to be okay now. But it never got okay, and I don't know how I wasn't anemic at that point. So after 6 months I went back to the doctor and said, this is not working, and let's try something else. So at that point I basically had no other choice other than something hormonal. So I decided to go with the Nuvaring, which was great for many years. I stayed on it, didn't really have any side effects right away, and it was great. I didn't really have to think about it. I had a reminder on my phone later on that would remind me when I needed to take it out, but for the most part I remembered to put it back in and take it out. There was a couple times after intercourse that I had forgotten to put it back in and had a little bit of an emergency panic situation with that, but overall it was great and it was fine. Except for, I'd say the past couple years, definitely the past year, I definitely feel like putting something foreign in your body like that for so many years tends to build up and have an effect on you, and it definitely seemed to be doing that to me. A little bit mentally, I think I was feeling it, and definitely physically. I just didn't like the way I felt on it anymore. I felt like it was starting to make me a little crazy, and it was definitely ruining my sex drive. I did some research and decided it just really wasn't worth it anymore at that point. Why would I be on birth control if it's making me not even want to have sex? It's like negating the whole situation. So I went off of that and kind of just decided to go for more natural methods for the time being. So what I did is I got a basal thermometer, and I started taking my temperature every morning and doing kind of like the FAM method. And along with that I also got a diaphragm, which you can actually still order online. They're not available, I don't think, at all in the US as far as like a prescription or whatever goes, but I got it online. It came from the UK, and I'll link that information below for anybody that's interested in it. It was okay. You can kind of feel it, and I will say it kind of interrupts spontaneity. You have to stop and put it in, or think ahead and put it in, and it feels a little weird. You have to leave it in after intercourse for a while. I think it's 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. So sleeping with it was like kind of uncomfortable sometimes, but it was okay. But what led me to sterilization, finally going for it, it was something I was definitely thinking about when I finally decided to talk about it and bring it up and had the opportunity to do so. Was actually at my appointment for my cervical cancer kind of scare situation that I talked about in a previous video, which is, I pretty much told that story in the previous video of how I kind of got to that. So for those of you who have already watched it, I apologize for any repetitiveness here, but I'll kind of sum up the whole situation. So basically, I had a cervical cancer scare. My pap results came back with HPV showing, and I had to go for an additional appointment to an OBGYN. So at that appointment, I was asked about what prescriptions I was on, etc., if I was still on the Nuvaring. I said no, but I'm hoping to hopefully eventually get sterilized. And that basically opened up the conversation with the gynecologist, and he offered to schedule an appointment with me to talk further about it. I think it was about a month later, I went to see him again, and he was just totally on board from the beginning, which was great. I had not pursued it before, I think because of all the stories that I had heard from other women saying they had to argue for it, they really had to fight for the procedure to be approved, and all this and that. There's rumors that you have to have had children first, then you have to be of a certain age. I'm still technically in my 20s, I'm 29, I'll be 30 in a few months. So I was still skeptical whether or not someone would even give me the chance, and I really didn't want to have to argue with anybody about it. But it was quite easy for me. I just mentioned it, and he took me very seriously about it, and he was serious about this procedure. And in the second meeting, he definitely wanted to make sure that I was sure about the procedure. And initially I wanted to do the procedure there's multiple different ways to kind of go about it. So I initially wanted to have my tubes removed completely, because not only does it sterilize you, but it also reduces the chance for ovarian cancer to very low. Ovarian cancer is known as the silent killer, which is very frightening, and I wanted to avoid. But at the same time, no one in my family has had it, so there was really no reason for me to do it. And he kind of talked me out of that procedure, just because he did know that I'm still young. In his head, there was a chance that I could want to potentially reverse it, even though I knew for me there was no chance that I'd want to reverse it. The other methods are reversible, kind of complicated as far as he seemed to explain it. Still kind of a chance of getting pregnant afterwards, but anyways, I knew for me for a fact that there was no way that I ever wanted to have children. But just the fact that it was a little bit more of an invasive procedure, I decided not to do that. There had been 2 extra incisions they would have had to put in my abdomen, so I decided not to do that. The procedure that I am getting is the one in which they go in and they burn basically your tubes closed. Is kind of like the non-medical term for what they do, okay? So the other way that they could do that, which is similar, is there's clamps that they can put on, but once again, I didn't want something foreign inside of my body because that just freaks me out. They just close the tubes up with an instrument, basically. And if anybody wanted to reverse that, they would just kind of cut that part out, I think is my understanding, and then put the tube back together. So I have a pamphlet here that I took from my doctor's office when I first inquired about the procedure, and they gave this to me. I found this to be really informative, but also like quite gross, and honestly, like going into procedure, I don't really want to know everything that's gonna happen, because for me it makes me more anxious. about thinking about going into surgery and what they're gonna do to me, because it's kind of a gross procedure. I guess any kind of surgical procedure is gross if you're not into that stuff, right? So I did want to just go over a little bit about what was in here, just to inform anybody that was interested, what's involved in this procedure. And like I said, there's a few different ways, but this one kind of more explains what I'm getting done. And I'll just read, like, there's a little intro here. I'll just read that out loud, and the rest of it I'll just show you. There's like some pictures and some stuff I'll just kind of explain a little more thoroughly for those who are interested in knowing about it. Sterilization is surgery performed to prevent a woman from getting pregnant. It is meant to be permanent. Sterilization is done with a technique called laparoscopy. Laparoscopy comes from the Greek word that means look inside the abdomen. For laparoscopy, the doctor uses a device like a small telescope called a laparoscope to look at the pelvic organs and identify the fallopian tubes so they can be blocked or cut. This prevents pregnancy. And so they do show basically how they do that. There's 2 instruments that they're going to insert into my abdomen after they fill my abdomen with gas, just to, I think, be able to get in there more to create space. I think they use carbon dioxide, and then they do 2 small incisions, one around my belly button area, and then one in the pelvic, lower pelvic area. So I'll show you pictures. They're not super graphic, but you know, if you're not into that, maybe skip ahead. So this is, so they show the tools that they use here, and basically how it works. So they do put, there's 2 tools that they put into your abdomen, and then one that they put in your cervix. And so the one is like, has like a little light on it, which allows them to look in, and the other one below that is what they actually use to clamp. And then I'm not really sure why they put the one in the cervix, just to, if they need to move your uterus around, is my understanding. I'm not a doctor, so anything I say is pretty much what I've learned from this, what I've learned from the doctor, and any research that I've done online. I highly suggest, if you're looking to do this, to do further research. I will say some of the research that I've done online is a little scary and misinformed, I will say too, because after I talked to my doctor, a lot of things were clarified. There was people on forums, which never read forums when you're looking into getting a procedure done. So many things to scare you. There's women on forums saying that they had hormonal issues afterwards and weight gain and all these problems, but I talked to my doctor about that, and he said that's completely not true, and it has no interruption on your hormones because they're not touching your ovaries. Your ovaries are left alone. They're simply just cutting your fallopian tubes, which has nothing to do with your hormones. Your egg still leaves the ovary. It just isn't allowed to pass all the way through the fallopian tube. It just dissolves. So you still go through your normal hormonal cycle. It just keeps the egg from going through the tube and going into your uterus to get fertilized. That's all it is. So I would say, if you do research and anything like that comes up, or something else, and you're really interested in getting this done, just talk to your doctor about it and they can clarify if it's true or not. I've learned taking information from the internet is usually not wise, and just honestly freaks you out more than you need to be, and you should just talk to an expert about it rather than some random person on the internet who may just be trying to sway women from getting the procedure done. I'm not really sure where all this came from. So anyways, it goes through, really goes through everything in this, and if I can, I'll try to link information from this below, or if I can scan it in or something, just because I think it's really informative. It talks about like follow-up care and what to expect afterwards. talks about like making the decision. It says getting a vasectomy for the man is easier and less risky, which is something definitely to keep in mind. My boyfriend is not willing to get a vasectomy, and some men aren't. I feel like we as women are always stronger in these kind of sense. Like, I have known a lot of pain in my life already, and I'm the one that if I get pregnant that I have to deal with that and make a decision for my body. So I'd rather make the decision now for my body than have to worry about him. Honestly, this is also something that I will have now for the rest of my life, whether or not we stay together. Not that I'm not planning on being with him, but things happen, you never know. Now I'll know that I'll be free from pregnancy for the rest of my life, and then I don't have to worry about anything anymore, which will be just so freeing. And so basically I'm making this series because when I looked for information on this, when I started thinking about this a few months ago, I really couldn't find anything. There was one video on YouTube that I could find. That was it, and it was an old video too. It was from a few years ago. And then anywhere else, like I said, there was forums of people talking about stuff that it wasn't trustworthy, turns out, and just a lot of misinformation. And I think there's a lot of scare tactics out there to try to get women not to get this done, because honestly, men and the world are afraid of women taking charge of our own bodies. And I think that's really a shame, and a lot of us have fallen into the fear trap of it, including myself, of believing what people say. And I just want to put this out there for anyone who is like me, who made a decision long ago that they never wanted to have children, which I did. I can't remember what age I made that decision at, but it was probably when I was a teenager, if not before that, that I decided that kids really weren't for me. I just have never felt a maternal kind of pull. It was one of those things, as I got older, I wondered if that would kind of happen, if I would all of a sudden change and get baby fever and become a whole new person. But the truth is, you are who you are, and if you know you really don't want children and you've never had that maternal feeling of a need for or want for a child, then this is a great option for you. And also, I want women to know that there's an option out there other than hormonal birth control. This is way more natural. Even though it's surgery, afterwards your body is still working like it's supposed to. I'm still going to have my natural cycle like I'm supposed to, and I can be free of all the side effects of birth control. Yeah, just kind of be free in myself, in my sexuality, and in my life, and I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't have to remember to take a pill every day or take out my ring or whatnot. I'm doing this to help other women be free like I will be. And I just want you to know that there's options out there. There's other people out there like you. I think we so often feel like we're alone, especially if we have opinions that are different than mainstream society, such as not wanting to have children. Yeah, I just want to connect with anybody out there who feels the same way as I do, and let you know that you're not alone and there's options for you. That's it. So in the next couple videos, I'm going to follow along on my journey to my surgery and show you guys my results at the end. And if you have any questions on any of this, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them and to connect with you guys. Thank you for watching. Please share this with anyone in your life that you think might be interested in this information. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.